Yeah.
Today we all talk about BNPL, right?
Yeah.
But why not just like the bank could just stretch their credit to any app, right? So if I already logged in my bank to, I don't know, Netflix, and I wanted to buy this new movie concept that they launched, and it was like €1,000 or something, and only had like €100 on my account, they could just stretch my capabilities immediately there as an API.
Wow.
I think that's where we're moving, and the ones that don't do that, they lose that opportunity, right?
We've heard already, perhaps I wouldn't say rumors, but there's already this line of thinking to say, well, the rest of industries are going to have to follow suit with what banking is doing with regards to open banking and opening up. Is there anything that you think other industries can learn from what's been happening in financial services in terms of making open banking a reality?
I think the whole open finance label that we use these days is about this next wave, right? Like that everything will be opened up, like even utility data will be opened up for us to consume together with other financial data parts to provide a better overview of your life and the way you spend money, even on gas or on electricity, on water and stuff like that. Probably generate a picture of the house you can actually live in if you lived a certain way. If you remember to close your doors, or if you remember to close your windows, right, you could afford a bigger house.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of learning, there's a huge difference between what we saw and see in the UK versus what we see in the European state. So the European legislation was kind of a top-down procedure, right? So it's a EU policy that was then enforced on each of the EU member countries that had to implement it in their own laws, and then have their FSAs kind of comply to that.
Yep.
Right? So it's a compliance regime where if you look at Open Banking UK, it's led by the competitive authorities, CMA, and it's much more a direct enforceable regime where if the CMA sees something that is kind of like leading to less competition in the financial space, they can change that and force banks to do a new API. We've seen it recently with the variable recurring payment APIs that they're now kind of like proposing banks to be building, right?
Yeah.
That would be a direct debit killer. Like
Right.
one API directly from your account with any amount that can be deducted at any time with your mandate. It's exactly what direct debit is all about, right?
Yeah.
Now you can do it directly from your account in the UK. So I think the learnings is probably that in other industries, you should work a lot on whether it should be market-driven first, and typically policies they should be in place to support markets, right, and market initiative. So I think what we probably should bring into insurance or into the savings space, or even totally other new spaces that we want to kind of facilitate data sharing from, is that if you want to survive in the future, and if the hypothesis that the you and I's out there, all the consumers, have actually moved into a digital space, are using ecosystems like your iPhone with the apps that you want, and I have the apps that I want. If you can't be present there, if you can't allow me as a customer of your product to share data from my own kind of environment in your product, you probably will lose relevance over time, right? And I think that's back to the bank part also, that banks, they have been thinking that they're losing relevance because of open banking. And I would say they are gaining relevance because of open banking. So the same probably will happen within all other spaces, that if you don't share data, if you don't give access to data, you will lose relevance to the ones that are, because giving you the possibility of accessing your data in environments where you want to use them is probably not only a benefit, it's also a requirement moving into the future.
So if I hear you correctly, it seems that at the moment, or perhaps in the past years, the embracing of open banking has been a competitive differentiator, and we're moving into a scenario where it will be basically a ticket to the dance, that if you don't do this, you're out of business.
Yeah.
Well, that's a significant change in market dynamics.
But also, like, open banking as a term is also about products.
Yeah.
banks being able to produce APIs on top of their products that they sell, right? So if you have a credit line, why is it that you have to call the bank to add that credit line to your account?
Yeah.
If they have all the data, right, you already aggregated all your accounts, so they have a pretty good picture of your capabilities and whether you're able to pay down any credit.
Yeah.
They could offer you that credit directly in their own app, but they could also offer it in the buying context where you actually needed more money.
Yeah.
Today we all talk about BNPL, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But why not just like the bank could just stretch their credit to any app, right? So if I already logged in my bank to I don't know, Netflix, and I wanted to buy this new movie concept that they launched, and it was like €1,000 or something, and only had like €100 on my account, they could just stretch my capabilities immediately there as an API.
Wow.
I think that's where we're moving, and the ones that don't do that, they lose that opportunity, right? To the ones that are doing this. That's one thing. The other part is the whole overlay that we see a lot. So we see a lot of banks that are starting to experiment with building services that are used by any banking customer. And once you have that up and running, that could be a cash flow analytics tool for SMEs. So people, they use that in order to stay on top of their cash, so they know they can pay their next round of that, and that they're getting the money in from the invoices they send out and so forth. Let's say they can pay their next round of that, and the application already knew because it was doing like cash flow predictions. Then the bank that issued this app to you, even though you're not customer with that bank, they could be giving you a loan, right, directly through that app, and all of a sudden, a bank that doesn't have you as a customer can sell their products to you. So I think that's where we're moving in the future. And if you become irrelevant in that digital space, you will lose to the ones that actually take advantage of you, right?